Good morning and welcome to Central Square Congregational Church, United Church of Christ. My name is Ann Malmquist, and usually I would be accompanied by Reverend Beth Stotts, but she and her family are at home today with a really gross-sounding flu. So we're kind of glad she decided not to bring that here to share that with us. So we will remember them on our concerns and celebrations list. We are a Christian community of people. If you want to read our mission statement. We are a Christian community of people who are reaching out to our neighbors at home and abroad, sharing our faith and our resources. We begin each service with announcements, so if anybody has an announcement, would like to come up and make a little line. I'm going to start with announcements in that today we are joined by our mission youth team, and we are going to be sharing our experiences from our past mission trip to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So we had a fantastic trip, and we are very excited about sharing our experiences with you this morning.
So you may notice it says hymn 10,000 on the board. Your hymnal doesn't go that high, but that is the insert you have, and it is in place of hymn number 9 that it says in your bulletin. So it comes right after the Mission Youth's message, and apparently this song is very special to the Mission Youth.
Hi, Lisa from CE. I'm sure Diane will get up and talk about Opportunity Fair, but we will be down there. But Opportunity Fair is about signing up and helping out, but it's also the opportunity for us to talk with you. We would love to hear your input for CE, especially like adult programs we'd love to do. In the past, we've tried to make some things work that haven't, and I don't know why that is. So having insight on what times work, what type of programs people want, like we want to be able to reach out to you, but we need you guys to reach out to us. And that's the perfect opportunity to find us because we're there. So feel free to reach out to us.
I'm Connie Chandler from Women's Guild and Fellowship. Just here to remind everyone our rummage sale is coming up in October. We're going to try and open for a couple of hours on Friday night from 6 to 8, and then we'll be open on Saturday from 9 to 1. As you gather your items together, your clothing, housewares, sporting goods, jewelry, just make sure things are clean and not broken and something that has some resale value, and we appreciate all your donations. Thank you.
Do a 1-2 punch here. Women's Guild and Fellowship will be meeting on Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. It's open to everybody, so please join us. We'd like to get some new members this year, and we've got a lot of good candidates here. Thank you.
Really? She didn't want to give up the microphone.
No.
Mike Bundock-Roth. I just wanted, actually it's kind of a celebration. We had a great day at Autumn Fest yesterday. We had a raffle, and we gave out a lot of breakfast coupons. I mean, we made up 200 kits, and we gave out about 180 of them. So that means there's going to be a lot of people potentially visiting us and checking us out on one of our breakfast Sundays. So therein lies the other growth point. We do have name tags, and we hope everybody has one. If you don't, please contact the office and definitely wear it, because you may know everybody, but everybody may not know you. Okay? So that's all I got.
Good morning. David Hansen from Outreach, Christian Outreach. I guess just preface what I'm going to announce. But outreach starts really simple, and probably the easiest way to start is just saying hello to somebody. And I know at the farm I say hello to a lot of people, and they look at me like I got 4 eyes, you know. But I found that works really good for, you know, even if people don't make eye contact anymore, and sometimes it seems like the kids are even tougher to break the ice with than the adults, because they're so preoccupied with everything. But anyhow, I'm here to talk about the programs that Outreach is involved with on a yearly basis, which there are 5. Don't ask me to name all 5 today. But next Sunday is Neighbors in Need, and there'll be an envelope. There'll be an envelope in the bulletin next week for that fund. And basically, Neighbors in Need is a collection that goes to being used entirely in this country for a wide variety of programs, from education, church programs, Indian reservations, and stuff like that. So that is for next Sunday, and we'd like you to consider that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Diane Shively, the church moderator. And as Lisa said, I am going to invite you to come to Opportunity Fair, which Lisa had a great point. It's not just for us to recruit you to do things, but it's for you to ask questions and tell us what you want. And say, I've never really liked that, but maybe if you did this kind of thing. We'd love to hear it all. So come visit us. I personally will be down there pushing the fair. If you have any questions about that, it's coming up in November. And the Turkey Supper, and Dine with Nine, which we're taking sign-ups for. And I'll tell you what that is if you come see me downstairs. And the golf tournament. So, but just come down. Lots of tables and lots of setups downstairs with lots of information for you to explore. Thanks.
I have one more quick thing that's been bugging me since I was standing here. I don't know whose coffee this is. That's yours? Okay, then I won't take it away. I was just going to kick it if I left it sitting there. As we begin to settle into the worship mode, if you wouldn't mind signing in on the fellowship pads, if you would like to check in on social media, tell everybody that you're here. And then as we are doing all of that, we will prepare our hearts and minds for the service by listening to the choral introit.
Could you please rise if you are able to join us in our call to worship? Jesus offers a new old commandment. With the incredible power and unfathomable depth of God's love for us, we must love one another. Come, children of God, let us worship and let us love one another.
join me in the prayer of invocation printed in your bulletin? Holy God, source and sovereign, you put all power and authority into the hands of Christ. Christ who washes our feet in humble service. Through our worship today, teach us to love one another as Christ has loved us, so that everyone will know that we are his disciples. Through Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
We will be reading John 13, 135. Feel free to join me in your Pew Bible, page 876. Now before the festival of the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, son of Simon, Iscariot, to betray him. And during the supper, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, got up from the table, took off his outer robe, and tied a towel around himself. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel that was tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered, "You do not know now what I am doing, but later you will understand." Peter said to him, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no share with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." Jesus to him, "One who has bathed does not need to wash except for the feet, but is entirely clean. And you are clean, though not all of you." For he knew who was to betray him. For this reason he said, "Not all of you are clean." After he had washed their feet, had put on his robe, and had returned to the table, he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for that is what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, and also ought to wash one another's feet, for I have set you an example that you also should do, as you, servants, are not greater than their master, nor are messengers greater than the one who sent them. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them. I am not speaking of all of you. I know whom I have chosen, but it is to fulfill the scripture. The one who ate my bread has lifted his heel against me. I tell you this now before it occurs, so that when it does occur, you may believe that I am he. Very truly, I tell you, whoever receives one whom I send receives me, and whoever receives me receives him who sent me." After saying this, Jesus was troubled in spirit and declared, "Very truly, I tell you, one of you will betray me." The disciples looked at one another, uncertain of whom he was speaking. One of his disciples, the one whom Jesus loved, was reclining next to him. Simon Peter therefore motioned to him to ask Jesus of whom he was speaking. So while reclining next to Jesus, he asked him, "Lord, who is it?" Jesus answered, "It is the one to whom I give the piece of bread when I have dipped it in the dish." So when he had dipped the piece of bread, he gave it to Judas, son of Simon. After he received the piece of bread, Satan entered into him. Jesus said to him, "Do quickly what you are going to do." Now, no one at the table knew why he said this to him. Some thought that because Judas had the common purse, Jesus was telling him, "Buy what you need for the festival," or that he should give something to the poor. So after receiving the piece of bread, he immediately went out, and it was night. When he had gone out, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and will glorify him at once. Little children, I am with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and as I said to the Jews, so now I say to you, where I am going, you cannot come. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You should also love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another."
We have sort of three phases of sharing to do today. So I think we have another microphone here, Rob, so you can have. Okay. So Rob and I are just going to share a little bit about where we went and what we did, and then the missioners will share some stories, and then we have a fabulous video presentation that we'll walk you through as we get to doing that. So our mission trip last year was to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Harrisburg is the capital of Pennsylvania, and when I first found out that that's where we were going, I thought to myself, I wonder what they need us to do in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. But when we got there, what we discovered was that Harrisburg is a city in extraordinarily desperate financial situation. Several years ago, many years ago now, like 20 or so years ago, the mayor decided that he wanted to have an incinerator in the city. So he lined up and got this incinerator built, and he had there was a grant that he was going to get from the federal government that was supposed to pay for this incinerator. So they built the incinerator, and then they went to get the money from the grant, and the federal government looked at the application and said, you were supposed to have all 12 city councilors sign this, and you only have 2, so we're not giving you the money. So now the city has taken on this enormous liability of this incinerator. So the ways that cities can raise money is to, hike property taxes. So they hiked up the property taxes enormously. So at that point, everybody that could afford to move out of the city moved out of the city. So what was left now was a fairly economically depressed tax base. So again, they still need money. So they dramatically increased the fees for picking up trash. So it now costs it still costs 6 times more to have trash picked up in Harrisburg than it does in any of the surrounding communities. So these economically depressed people already said, well, we're not paying the fees, we're going to throw our trash in our backyards. So for 20 years, people had been throwing their trash in their backyards. So you can sort of now imagine what happens when you have an entire city that was beginning to be full of trash. So we went to Harrisburg to help out with some of that. Rod's going to get into a little bit more about the mission of that. But the other thing that we did is also located in Harrisburg is the largest food bank in the northeastern part. This side of the Mississippi is, I think, what they said. So we got to spend a lot of time looking at how the food banks work. And for me, one of the most interesting things that we noticed was they had 2 different programs that they ran out of the food bank. One was a federal food assistance program. So the day we boxed up the federal food boxes, we had to put everything exactly the same. They weighed the boxes so that each box was exactly the same. So we did that, and off they went. The next day we went in, and they started a program for struggling veterans. And the director of the food bank was telling me that he had gone to the VA to ask them for some support in this food program, and he said the VA wanted nothing to do with them because they didn't really want to admit that veterans might be struggling. So he said, fine, we'll do it ourselves. And he was able to raise enormous amounts of money for this program. What is not only funded by local businesses to do the distribution, but he was able to get all sorts of donations, food donations. And because he wasn't restricted by the federal guidelines, they could put whatever they wanted in these boxes. So we then spent the second day, we didn't actually pack those boxes, but we spent the day setting up the assembly line for the people who were coming in the next day to actually pack the boxes for the struggling veterans. And those were the 2 big programs that we did, that I did. And then now Rob's going to tell you a little bit about Wild Heart Ministries.
Yeah, so Wild Heart Ministries was really founded, the way I understood it, in response to some very interesting things with what Ann had just mentioned. Over the years, people did throw their trash nowhere. Over the years, there was nowhere to put the trash. Construction companies and all had nowhere to put their trash. So Wild Heart Ministries, a Christian operation that was located in a big mission in Allison Hill, that this mansion was at one time designed by somebody and built by somebody who had the dream of making Harrisburg the most beautiful city in the United States. And this mansion is incredible. And for a while that worked, right up until these issues came on. And there was a lot of corruption that went along with this. So Wild Heart, the people who were running that basically got a lot of teams together to do reclamation of lots. Now, the interesting thing about Harrisburg is you could go up and down neighborhoods that were totally abandoned. They were just standing there, totally abandoned, nothing in them, trash all over the place, block after block after block, until you got into Harrisburg is the state capital. When you got into that part of the city, it was gorgeous. It was, as beautiful as was planned. So this ministry, what they did, they listen to the teachings of Jesus. They act. They don't just preach and pray. They act. They go out and they establish teams to go out to rebuild some of the buildings that are breaking down. There was all kinds of Habitat for Humanity teams working in over there that did a lot, and they organized folks like us to go back and do cleanup and working in the food pantries and all else. It was really quite something. Interesting. With all these abandoned buildings and everything, I heard a really interesting fact that I never would have believed true, but it is true, and when you think about it, it's very logical. Harrisburg has the largest number of abandoned buildings per block in the United States. As a city, they are also one of the lowest homeless populations of any city around, because they can all live in these abandoned buildings. And so they're not homeless, technically. And so they found a way to manipulate that. So anyway, that was very interesting. They sent us out. Some of these places that we went out and that we worked with, literally were 8 feet deep in trash. And if we listen to some of the things that, like we listened to the gospel and all reading today, one of the very interesting things that I found about this group, our group in particular, and I've said it over and over, and I'll stand by it forever, we read in the scripture many times where God says that he prefers mercy, not sacrifice. And we see it several times, and do we really understand what it is? Many people will go out there and say that they sacrificed the weekend or they sacrificed a week and they went in and they did the mission and that was great. This team here, I can tell you, was so involved. You could see there is mercy there. There is a heart. The way these folks came in and did some of the work and did some things, this was not easy work. And so when you watch this presentation, take a look at the slides and listen to what these folks say. I learned way more out of this than I've learned the entire year prior to this.
Okay, so where are the people that went to the food bank? All right, do you want to tell a little story about the food bank?
So the food bank was truly a business. It's undescribable how they have everything detailed out to, delivering it to people's homes, collecting it from large stores like Walmart or, and they would just bring it there, and everything has a shelf life of within a year. So they have to really get this food out to the people as soon as they can. And it's just everything they do, those people, there's people working there as full-time jobs, but there's also people like us that are there for, a couple days, and they're volunteers, coming from all around the city, coming from other states to even work for this company, and it's just truly amazing what they did at the food bank.
Yeah, and the jobs that need to get done in this food bank, wouldn't have occurred to me if I hadn't been there myself. Like, one of the things me and Nate had to do the first day we were there was X out the brand name on some plastic bags that they were going to store food in. And you would wonder why that needs to get done. It's because the brand that donated all these bags doesn't want them to get resold. So you need some people there. I mean, it took us a couple hours Xing out names for 10,000 bags, 20,000 bags. At least. Yeah, and then there were other stuff, like everything has a food shelf life. And they obviously won't turn away any donations from big companies like Walmart. So they got this gigantic donation of milk, and it got rotten. So they needed somebody to pour it out so the garbage trucks could take it away. So me, Nate, and Chris all did that. And it's just some of the jobs that had to be done here were really crazy to think about, that a food bank needs to be doing this kind of stuff. So, were you with the food bank? He was not.
They said, they said that people came from all over to get food from the food bank. People would come when it's raining, pouring, snowing, any type of hurricane, tornado, whatever. They would come to get food, which is truly amazing. So I was working in the office part of the food bank rather than packaging up food to be sent out, and it was really interesting to see how they handled fundraising and connection with the community for donations and stuff like that. So I sent out a bunch of letters and just helped them pack up t-shirts and mail stuff out.
So we were actually in two big groups, and then there was a second group that split into two even smaller groups. So there was a group that Beth Basler took, and did you have a special name for yourselves, or they went off into different things? So all right, so the Take 5, we were in Harrisburg, which is right next to Hershey, so we had all kinds. Chocolate was our theme. So we were the Mr. Goodbar team that went to the food bank, and then we had the Take 5 group, and then Take 5 split into Take 5 and the Rob's Vegas group, which they'll tell you about in a second. So the Take 5 people, tell us a little bit about things that you did.
So our first day that we got there, walked down this like little back alley, past a lot full of like maybe 6-8 feet of trash. Walked past a little back alley that was covered in trash, and found these two people that were part of the Wild Heart Ministries. I don't remember their names off the Joanne and Joanna, who was our main leader, and she was awesome to work with. She was always energetic and wanting us to get hype and get out and work. So our first day we spent cleaning up that little lot that they were finishing up cleaning, and then we decided to clear out that sidewalk back alley, and that was a 2-day process of shoveling mounds of trash and dirt into trash bags and then leaving it on the side so Public Works trucks could come and pick it up. And then we moved to the back lot that we walked past the first time, and it was tough to do. I have smelt things I never want to smell again. I have seen things I don't want to see again. But in the end, through it all, you learn to deal with it, and you push through it all, and to see the transformation that we did and have the effect on the community was amazing. Like, it made a really big impact on me.
There was this one alleyway by the second lot that we had to clean up, and it was just like filled with all sorts of different trash and a lot of disgusting stuff I hope I don't run into. It was a rough time cleaning that up. There was just all sorts of different trash, a lot of needles there. That was an interesting little area.
You didn't touch those, you told somebody to come.
No, actually, by the end of the week, I was the one picking them up because Ethan and Max were scared. Like, in the beginning of the week, there were, like, so many, like, bugs and, like, gross stuff, and I was like, ew, and Beth was like, you need to get over this because this is what you're doing all week. And, like, Joanna or, like, Brielle would be like, okay, this is what needs to get done next, and I'd be like, as I started doing it. Like, so... Yeah, and it was a really good experience because Beth is my mentor for confirmation, so I'm really glad I got to go through this with her.
I don't know who you're giving it to.
So the Vegas group.
Oh.
There's one more quick thing. The Wild Heart Ministries were the ones who made an agreement with the trash removal people, and it was because of them that the deal was if the Wild Heart people would get the piles of trash to certain corners of the town, that they would come and pick everything up that made it to that corner. So we also did a lot of hauling of trash to random street corners to leave them out for the people to come and pick it up. Okay, the Vegas group. Do you want to say anything about that before?
Mention how we got it, because many people were asking us how we got the name Vegas Crew. And Vegas Crew came about because it is true. We were up on top of 8 feet of trash in people's backyards, pulling things out, old couches, tires, baby diapers, and a lot of bugs, nails, glass, everything else. And every now and then what we were doing was we're throwing things aside and grabbing and things like that. And every now and then something would hit somebody's toe or we would see a bug that we didn't like. And sometimes the language that came up when we did or saw these things was not something that we would probably say right in the middle of this sanctuary here right now. Not bad, but maybe not what everybody would expect to hear. And so what we decided was whatever is said on this lot stays in this lot, and we became the Vegas crew.
That was fun. So basically, like, what we were doing when we first got there was taking a ton of trash. Like, there was, it was like 6 or 8 feet of trash all piled up in a backyard. And we would take the trash and put it into a trailer and bring it up the street and dump it, like, on the side. We would pile it all off. And wasn't it like they would take care of it for us? Like, the trash would come, they would get it for us, clear it. Yeah. Yeah, and like not only was it like cleaning it, but you also meet a lot of new people. Like there's this one little girl, Tiana, she's 10. She was really awesome. She liked to take control. She was saying how she always plays on top of that trash. And it's on top of this trash that we found disgusting to remove. Yeah, it was really sad, but it was like nice to know that we now gave her like a nice spot to go play outside, like that I always had.
How did she become so special to us? What did we try to do? I in particular remember
when we told her like to be careful in the trash, not to go on it.
This is dangerous stuff. And so Tiana became our supervisor because basically this was dangerous stuff in terms of for a little kid to be playing on top of. And so I told her, I said, Tiana, please, you gotta, she wanted to help. And so I told her, you gotta get off this pile, you can work over here. And I'm not kidding you. She stopped, put her hand on her hip, pointed her finger at me and told me, put me in my place and said, I live here. Okay, you're only visiting. I will do this if I want to, because this is her backyard. So we all quickly changed directions and said, okay, you're our supervisor. So we gave her some things to do. She was helping. She hauled 10 times her weight in trash out of there. And for the next several days, we met her, and she had some things to say and always had something to tell us to do. We got a picture of her.
All right, let's see who else was on that crew.
Yeah, we ran into a family of possums. That was fun. Rob brought down some power lines. Yeah, we had to shovel a sidewalk that had like half a foot of dirt mixed with some plastic bags, and that made it almost impossible to shovel it up, but we did it. And we had to move a couple of mattresses that were all soaked up with water. They weighed a lot, and couches and other heavy stuff.
We got muddy.
Yeah. That's about it.
Okay, not only were we cleaning, but we were also doing a lot of dancing and listening to music. Yeah. Yeah, our group, Vegas crew. Yes.
I sang. I never sang.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to have a seat here, and Nathan Basler has volunteered to offer some other thoughts about the trip, and he's been on a lot of mission trips, and so he's going to share a few thoughts. Wherever you're comfortable, Nathan.
Good morning, congregation. So I'm going to talk a little and elaborate a little more on the mission trip and what it means to me. This was my 5th mission trip this year. I'm a senior at Bridgewater Rainham. So the mission trip is a different type of atmosphere than any other organization or event I have ever been a part of. The people every year who come and go all have some important role in our 6 days of being a family. I would like to start off by saying that everybody I've ever worked with, not just from our church, but even the other churches we come to know in that short week, mean the world to me. The fact that all of these random people come from all around the country come together and bond and make friendships and do God's work all together is truly something astonishing. Everyone takes a break from their daily lives of school or even work for the chaperones to share one common goal: to make this world a better place. Even if it's not changing the world in 1 week, but changing someone's life, or changing and bettering a community for the people to come and live in, is truly something special and unique for me. This year, for my 5th mission trip, we went to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Something that was different this year than years past. When we got there, it was a different environment than what we've been in. When we got there, we were introduced to a program called Wild Heart Ministries. This community of people were already deeply invested and had created a bond with its people. The workers of this program all lived together in a large mansion. It was located in the middle of a square mile of all these low-income houses. A man named Tannen Herman and his wife and 2 kids. For many summers, these people have been organizing the cleanup of streets in a square mile so people can live in a better and cleaner life. Something that was also different this year was the group of kids, or the group of guys and girls that came with me this year. The people who attended this trip this year was truly unmatched to any other trip I have ever been on. I cannot think of one moment when I was not laughing at a comment or a joke someone made. During the van rides, I truly got a 6-pack from the amount of times I was just laughing. I was just hurting with the amount of how much I was laughing with these guys. From cleaning up trash in a completely covered alleyway up to my waist in trash, or dumping out 11,000 pounds of spoiled chocolate milk, everyone had smiles on their faces, whatever they were doing. And yes, we did try the spoiled milk. We had to. We're teenage boys. What do you expect? Lastly, though, I'd like to thank everyone who contributes for us to go on these trips. First, I would like to thank the chaperones and organizers of the trip, Ann Momquist, Beth Basler, Rob Basler, and Marlene Jacobs for all their hard work. And to the other mission youth. Also to the Women's Guild for everything they do, for all their donations and time that they give to us. And last but not least, to the family, friends, and every supporter who helps us go on these mission trips. Without you, there would be no mission trip. Thank you.
So we're going to set this up, and while you just need to turn it back on, right? Is that the deal? So one more quick thing that I just wanted to share with all of you before we do the slideshow. On the last night of the mission trip, we always have a big community cookout. Usually Youth Works organizes it, but this year the Wild Heart folks, Tannen in particular, was very involved in, because they had kids that come through every week. So they gave out little awards. And now there were 5 or 6 other church groups with us at the Youth Works program that week. And so their awards, all of the people that won awards were from our group. So I had a little proud moment there. So they awarded a Mr. or Miss Allison Hill, which went to Rob Basler as the most spirited worker of that week. The hardest worker of the week went to Miss Katie Wallace, and what was kind of ironic about her being awarded this was that Rob wasn't in the room either. He was outside cooking. Katie wasn't in the room either because she was outside babysitting, continuing to do her hard work, and voted most likely to return to the Allison Hill mission was Nathan Basler. Not Basler, sorry, Nathan McDermott. There was Nathan Basler, that's a different guy. But what was funny was that we were talking about it afterwards, and I sort of was congratulating Nathan for his award, and he said to me, I was standing in there thinking about how I was going to come back, and maybe I wanted to come again later this summer. So they picked the right guy, and they picked the right guy, or the right people, for all of their awards. So Beth Basler has put together this slideshow that we're just going to show you, and we probably will stop and jump in and tell some stories about some of the things that you're seeing here. So that was us on the day that we took off. It wasn't that early, but it was early enough.
And as we went along for the trip, if we did post something, a lot of times we would put hashtag Heavensburg.
Yeah.
Which
We took our historian with us. Yes. Ooh, excuse me.
This was on the road.
We need to make sure that we use microphones if we're going to talk because for the TV and for everybody. So we have giggling girls here for the narration. Thank you. Oh, there was this beautiful rainbow. Was that the first day?
Yeah, that was when we first got there.
Yeah.
Wait 1 second. Let me start this over. I'm just going to do it manually here.
Technical difficulty. You never count on these.
So up on the table here while we're trying to do this, this is a collection of some of the cool things that we found in the trash piles that we reclaimed as interesting things. Okay, here we go.
It's going to go on its own. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
So love the hill.
Yeah, so these were all of the organizations that were involved in our trip. This is a piece that's about the Wild Heart Ministries. That we posted this on Facebook, I think, didn't we?
Yes. There you go. So this is kind of what Rob explained too.
Yeah, yeah. So we can probably, is this going to click on its own?
Yeah. If you're going to give enough time for everybody to read it.
This is the mansion that the Wild Heart Ministries is located in. Some of the graffiti that was, the beautiful graffiti that was around the town. At the end of every day, our hearts and minds were filled with a great sense of accomplishment, and we looked forward to whatever tomorrow would bring. And here we are at the food bank. The girls were not at all happy about having to wear the hairnets.
So, could you just go back?
Yeah.
So these bags right here were actually the bags that Kevin was talking about. We had to cross out the Trader Joe's label on them. And they were just, as the bag says, they were going to be for apples.
They had fantastic machinery at this. We'll tell you, if you want to know more about the machinery, we can tell you some of the stories about the saran wrap spinner thing. And oh, Alex has a question. Yes, Alex. If you are finishing the 8th grade and you're going to go into the 9th grade the next year, you can come on the mission trip. That's the youngest that we take. That's an excellent question. He asked where we slept. We slept in the, I guess it was like the church school rooms. We slept in a church that hosts the YouthWorks program. So we slept down in the basement. It was a little cooler.
Big spacious rooms.
It was air conditioned.
Yeah, we had nice accommodations this year.
There's air mattresses and no windows.
So we had a lot of fun with the little rolly things there that you slide things down there at the food bank. That was great. And yeah, lunch. On the first day, I accidentally dubbed those guys the doofuses. And with, truly, that's a compliment. Here's the chocolate milk. So what happened was they got all this chocolate milk and it was going bad, and they tried to put it in the dumpster, and the dumpster guy came and said, "This thing weighs like 15 well, no, 20,000 pounds more than it's supposed to. We can't take it. So they had to dump all the chocolate milk out before they could take away the bins. So that was fun. So that's the Mr. Goodbar group at the food bank. We actually got to do 2 community cookouts on this trip. Usually we just do the one that is hosted by the YouthWorks program, but this year we got to go to one that was hosted by a community church, because the Wild Heart Ministries was not only helping to inspire their own people, but they were inspiring people in other organizations to also try to come out and help the community. So this was a community picnic that was hosted by one of their local churches. And that mural is spectacular. And that's our YouthWorks crew. Chris there, he was kind of sick, and so he was walking around with a mask on for a little while. And not only did we bring our historian, but we brought our breakfast crew. So, of course, they made breakfast for us when it was their turn to have breakfast duty.
Can I add something to that? When you bring Beth on a trip, and the food is normal mission trip food, you don't stand a chance. So almost right from the beginning, I started hearing in my ear, and others started hearing how she wanted to get involved with doing a meal. Brought her spices with her. And that we needed to do, because we have the tradition here, a breakfast there. And both cases were very well received. The food came out real well. Go ahead.
I'm going to say that the omelets that we had were one of the staples, and they were very good, and I enjoyed them thoroughly.
Yeah, Ben, we know Ben can make a mean omelet now. So,
Can make a mean omelet.
We're all...
to have them host a breakfast here at the church.
Yeah. So I forget where we were, but we were someplace, and I was sitting with Rob and Beth, and they said, "Can we go to the grocery store to do?" I said, "Kids, this is the most exciting thing ever. The Brazzos want to go to the grocery store." And we did.
But everybody got involved.
Yeah, so we had some good eating on this trip. It wasn't all working. They did a lot of loafing and lounging a little bit. So in our afternoon time, or our evening large group gathering, they called it, we would get together and have some sort of an evening program. And so we would run little programs. But they always started with shout outs and yay gods. So you could shout out to somebody that had done something that you noticed during the day, or you could share a time when you saw God working in the day. And that was really kind of a neat thing to get to do. And there's our collection of cool things we found in amongst the trash.
On the last day, on my group, Take 5, I was digging up trash, and I came across the glass statue of Jesus, and to me that was just like, wow. He was with us the whole time, and that was definitely a yay God.
And the Baslers spent their 35th wedding anniversary with us on the trip. That's them doing devotions that morning. And they, we had a fashion show that they, are we going to get to see this? Here we go. It was Rob shaking his stuff there on the, showing off the t-shirts. And there's Beth.
This was a fashion show.
Yeah. Showing off that shirt, I think, wasn't it?
Yes,
Hey.
we purchased it. Here's Team Vegas.
Yes, if you want to talk about.
When we started, if you go back to that fence it was piled up to where, not the very top pieces there, but along that base fence there, the trash was all the way up to the top of the fences. And these lots were such that there was lots around us that were slightly below the grade of the lots we were working on. There was so much trash and it was so heavy, those fences were actually bowed out, overhanging the lots below it. So if somebody was below it at any time, this stuff could have just come crashing down. And within these lots, the things we noticed is that there were power lines that were cable lines and everything that were just added. It wasn't professionally done. People were squatting in some of these houses here and raising their families in these lots. And it was really cool working in these, and really cool about the time of that picture when you looked at, we got things down to ground level and people could actually go out there again. It was quite a time. That's the trailers that what we would do, we'd pick them up, we'd load it into the trailers to bring them down to the corner lots. And that's like a kind of a picture of how the junk looked. It was just, you know, you're pulling couches out that are 4 feet underground under the trash. Oops. So what happened here, I do owe an explanation. So what they did was we went to a different lot down the way, and what they did was they wanted some lots cleared out, and so they offered me a chainsaw. And that was pretty cool. I really liked that because they had all these trees that were growing up in these lots, and before you could clean them, you had to move the trees down. So what we did was we went in, we pulled a lot of the stuff out of the way. The overhead, the trees, the canopy were so thick you couldn't even see what was in them. And so the first thing was when we cut down, I cut down the first tree, I missed one car on the other side of the fence. The idea was to knock the tree down on the fence and take the fence down too. And we knew where there was a car, so we missed that. But then one of the folks came running around and said, "Did you see the other car?" And I said, "What other car?" And so, but there was another car, but we missed that too. God was watching over us, and this thing kind of went between the two. And then we went to the other side over there. We're clearing out some other trees, and all of a sudden I noticed when they came down, there was power lines in them. And I was praying that these were not active power lines and all, and that it wasn't affecting anybody. But then while we were looking at some of the apartments and houses, all of a sudden, one by one, people started coming, walking out, wondering what was going on. So a little accident, but they understood.
We got to go to Chocolate World. This was one of our evening activities. It smelled great in there. Oh, that's a cute selfie.
That's the sidewalk, the first day.
Literally, the dirt that we took off of the sidewalk, we brought it up to the lawn. So,
Oh yeah, but Kate was a great sweeper. She was great at sweeping off a porch with a broom.
right here, this is when the trucks came and hauled all the trash away. This is the town of Harrisburg coming and hauling the trash away, which I think they agreed to do for free because of all the hard work that Wild Heart Mission was doing all summer long. And I think 11,000 pounds. It was a lot of trash. A lot of trash hauled that summer. The pictures here, this is Joanna, who was our block leader on day 1 and 2, and she's Amish. And at one point during the barbecue, her family actually came and ate with us. I think they ate in the house, but I got to meet them. They were really cool. And then Brielle and Jordan, Brielle was day 3, Jordan was day 4, and it was just really nice getting to meet each one of these girls and trying to figure out why they were doing this, because they're volunteers. They pay for their meals, they pay for their room, and they volunteer. A lot of them are in college. Maybe it's community service, but I think it was really just trying to bring back community, and that was really inspiring. And Jordan, I got the feeling, was probably on drugs at one point and came around, and now she was giving back in the only way she knew how, which was through this ministry. And she grew up just 2 blocks from where all this is going on, and I can't even imagine growing up in this.
Okay, how much more do we have here? Okay. Rebecca had a knack of finding all sorts of friends in the dirt. So there's a worm, and what was that green guy? A praying mantis, and there's a slug there too, I think. That's our pile of gloves when we were almost done. And so, of course, the Baslers have to be in charge of the cooking wherever we go, so they took over the cooking for the cookout. And so this was the YouthWorks community cookout that they host. And there was a Habitat for Humanity group that was there with us. They were on a 10-day mission trip. And as we got to talking to them, we were all very thankful for the way that our setup was, because they hadn't taken a shower in 10 days. So this is our group there on the way out. Oh, and there was a Chick-fil-A that was around the corner, so we made sure we went to Chick-fil-A, because that was a big deal. And, yeah, gotta have your grits and scrapple. So, what do you want to read this?
Sure. The last day, we always did a recap every night, and when we did our recap that last day, Beth posted this on Facebook, and it was exactly what we were feeling at the end, and it just spoke to us. So I used to pray that God would feed the hungry or do this or that, but now I pray that He will guide me, to do whatever I am supposed to do, what I can do. I used to pray for answers, but now I'm praying for strength. I used to pray that prayer changes things, but now I know that prayer changes us. We change things. We all agree that we are the change at the Hill, the food bank, or in our own backyard. Our pledge is to continue to use the hands, hearts, and minds that we were blessed with, to be continued.
So thank you for letting us share our fabulous mission trip with you, and thank you for supporting all of the supporting us in what we're doing. I know we're kind of running late here, so we're going to sing our hymn now. now's the time in our service when we share our concerns and our celebrations with one another. Obviously, we have a giant celebration to share here with our mission youth. Is there anyone else who has a concern or celebration you'd like to share? In a moment of meditation. Let's join in praying the prayer Jesus taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. It seems our morning offering has already been collected.
Holy One, blessed are you, who entrusts to our care all of creation through thy tithes, offerings. We return to you a portion of that which you have given us. May they be a means of serving you in our mission to which you have called us. Through Jesus Christ, amen.
Now let's join in singing hymn number 2. Verses 1, 2, and 3. As we leave today, one of the messages from our scripture was about how none of us is above serving. As Jesus washed his disciples' feet, even Judas's feet, who he knew was never going to be thankful for what he was doing for him, let that spirit of service and giving carry us through the rest of our week. Amen.